Oh, I mean, look, and Trump basically ended that trade, right? And I think the reality is, someone like myself, 25 years covering tech and talk to investors around the world and travel around the world. That no doubt that's the trade in terms of like you're seeing money flow into China tech, into Europe, into gold. It's that sort of sell America strategy that's definitely starting to play out. But again, that's self-inflicted, and that's part of the whole what we've talked about over the last week and a half is that if these tariffs in their current form actually went into effect, it would take US tech sector back a decade. And that's the reality.
And yet, Dan, I think it means that we're actually going to start being more forensic about the valuation differentials of the key tech players in the United States. Dan, you are one of the people who's looked most forensically at, for instance, Tesla many times over the years, talking to CNBC about it as well. Is Tesla in a really, really dangerous position now? And no one on this channel, by the way, thinks some of the action against Tesla showrooms is acceptable. It is totally unacceptable. But actually, the feeling around this stock now, is it going to make it really, really challenging to reclaw its previous ground?
Look, Musk has a choice. You either leave the administration and ultimately start to repair some of the brand damage, or otherwise, if he stays and doubles down Trump administration Doge, I mean, those are brand issues that will be, I think, some permanent demand destruction. And we're bullish. We're one of the most bullish on Tesla the last decade. But the reality is, you have so much great things ahead in terms of autonomous robotics, unsupervised FSD in Austin. But brand damage is real. And for Tesla, when we do have valuation, yeah, it has been a change because it's really that double whammy in terms of what we've seen with Musk. And that is, even though he's opposed, to obviously tariffs, the brand issues have become, I think front and center. And that's something that needs to be rectified. And there's only one person that could do that. It's Elon.
And Dan, look, the optionality, everyone, and Kathy Wood and others, and you've talked a lot about the autonomy, the robo-taxis, the battery side of things, the AI, so many exciting avenues that could put a real rocket under this stock. And yet, if they lose the cash cow of sales from Teslas, is that going to put all those other things in jeopardy?
Look, I mean, I believe ultimately like, the valuation's 2 trillion or more when you look at base value in terms of autonomous robotics in the future. If this was an Intel, it wouldn't even matter because in terms of situations like that, in terms of lack of sort of growth opportunities, Tesla's the opposite. But you talk about EV, you talk about deliveries, you talk about brand. It all sets the stage for what's really the gold in the rainbow, autonomous and robotics. That's why this is such an important period for Musk.
Dan, I want to take you to Meta because this is also part of what the Trump legacy looks like for markets. And I've got to say, when it came to legal cases in recent years, it feels like investors care a lot more about them today than what they used to. Google being one example, but now we have Meta, and it is seen as a test case by the FTC as to what happens in terms of monopolistic behavior allegations from here. What do you think that means for the likes of Meta? Do you think these monopolistic concerns are going to touch the sides for some of these big tech companies?
Look, I mean, Khan no longer is at the FTC, right? So that's bullish for tech. And I think that's on going forward. In terms of this trial, I mean, it's important because, you can't put genie back in the bottle in terms of what they do, what the ultimate, I don't believe, again, it's not a sale of, or, a for sale in terms of some of the assets, but it sets the precedent for coming years. And obviously there is antitrust concerns in terms of what we've seen from DOJ and others for big tech. So this is very important. That's why Zuckerberg needs to, ultimately defend this very importantly. And it speaks to just some of the broader headwinds that we're seeing for big tech. But again, this doesn't change our bullish view of Meta or big tech in terms of what we're seeing here on FTC.